What's up, traders? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com, and taking a look at the Russell here. I want to break down, we're coming into the end of the year. This might, in fact, be my last trade of the year here. We'll see how the charts want to shape out. But I think this was probably the best trading opportunity for the week here, and it was something which we were watching from yesterday, which was for the Russell to get up through this 2016.60 level. And it had room up here in the 2042.50s and then that 2045.30, which ultimately you can see was hit as well. So there was a tight little zone up there for that to trade up into. So I talked about this morning in the morning write-up. So the title of it was Jingle Russell, Jingle Russell. And I was just talking about keeping it simple here today. So Russell, if we can get an open over this 2016.60s, pull back to test, and then get through opening print, the longs are on the table in here. There's room up in the 2042.50s, which makes this one really interesting. Again, we talked about this whole thing last night. We also talked about Costco, Snow, Tesla, NVIDIA, all of those names as well. And one of those ended up making the list here today, too, which is going to be Snow, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So with this being said, it may or may not be my last video here for the year, just depending upon how these markets start to shape out, right? So we talked about it. Volume is going to start to go down here in the second half of this week. Keep an eye on that. Be aware of it. And if it does start to slow down, then recognize it and go, okay, cool. Maybe I either want to reduce some size here, or I can take a couple extra days off. And at the end of the day, or essentially at the end of the year, right, these last few days are probably not going to make that much of a difference, whether you're, bright red, small red, break even, or bright green on the year, right? So start thinking about that and really kind of how you want to start transitioning that into the new year. So, right, I could come out, I could essentially quit right now for the year and be coming into the new year with my last trade having been a really decent winner. But again, I had to wait a couple days for this to come together, right? So a couple tips and tricks here coming into the new year. Number one here, if you don't already do so, then you need a plan. You need to start doing something similar to this write-up, or obviously you can subscribe and get my morning write-up every single day, which is, essentially something broken down like this with trade ideas and all of that, right? And we can see, just how that worked out here today from the Russell. So if you are going to have some sort of New Year's resolution, maybe it's to become a better trader, then you have to start doing the things in which it takes in order to become a better trader, right? So a couple of those things obviously being, number one, the plan. Number two, sizing, right? One of the biggest reasons in which traders typically fail. And one thing in which it definitely helps is trading smaller size in the first part of the year, right? Starting to build that cushion, starting to build that confidence, because all the numbers reset, right? And it's just, there's nothing different about the new year technically from the standpoint of like where we're at in terms of how we're going to trade or any of these things, right? But mentally, it does create this kind of like fresh start, and you don't necessarily have the cushion in which you thought you did and all of these things. So it kind of plays with some emotions there a bit. Just kind of keep some of those things in mind here. And then the third and final thing here, which these are all tips and tricks in which I've said before, is just to know your setups, right? What are the trades in which you are going to take? Is it something like this RTY here where, hey, once we can break through the level, we go to the next level, right? If you're using whatever other strategy it is, right, just define what that ultimately looks like for you. So those would be three little kind of tips and tricks here going into the new year, 2024, which is kind of crazy here for the markets. With that being said, also, we will have earnings coming up. Alcoa reports the 17th of January. So January, like second half of January and February here, should be some pretty decent trading action here with the earnings and all of those things, which leads us to kind of our first earnings name to talk about here tonight, which is going to be in Fedex. And in Fedex here, you can see we've got a pretty decent move to the downside. We closed at 280. We're currently printing at 253s and change here. This is going to look pretty ugly from a bigger picture standpoint. And I do think this ultimately maybe tries to find some buying pressure tomorrow, but ultimately here, over the next few months, I'm going to be looking, next few weeks to few months, I'm going to be looking for FedEx to start making a little bit of a push lower here, even from these earnings, right? So it's going to do some damage here, kind of across the board on these charts, and we'll see how that one kind of shakes out. I'll put an actual formal plan and all of these things with levels together here for FedEx. Now, one more trade in which I'm stalking, watching, waiting for here is going to be in snow. So in this one, I want to move up through 200.42s with a trend, and then we need pullbacks to the level that ultimately end up holding, right? Very much the same in which we saw out of the Russell, where we wanted that pullback to the level, get back up through opening prints, and then room to run up into target. So for me here, I was able to scoop longs off of the level here today and close them out right up here in towards 2030s on the day. So it was about a 4-minute trade, good for 12 points in the Russell there, which was fun. So with that being said, I want to see something very similar out of snow. Hey, maybe we get a gap up over this 200.42s. Maybe we can trade up through it. And then on pullbacks, we manage to hold that right. Again, that's the language in which is set here inside of the plan. And you can see we ultimately were able to push up to the level today a couple different times here, but we were never able to really get through it and hold any sort of pullbacks here. So I stayed away from this position, but I'm still open to it. It just needs to get up through this level and then do the things in which we've been talking about here for it to become a valid trade. Again, define those trades, what it is you want to see, how they're going to act, all of these things, right? So anyways, that's what I got here for you guys tonight. I'm also going to be watching gold here going into the new year. I think there's some potential there. But as of right now, we're going to start to kind of wind down here, at least for the rest of this week. And Thursday, Friday, like I said before, I don't think there's going to be really much to do. So tomorrow is going to be pretty much it. So anyways, take care. Hope it helps. I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.